Welcome to Observing the Sabbath. I'm your host, Nathaniel Molnar. I'm joined by special guest, Johnny Gifford. Thank you for being here with me to talk about this song.
Thank you, Nathaniel, for having me. I'm looking forward to it. Black Sabbath is a band that you introduced me to really in depth, and I'm excited to talk about these tracks.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Now, for people who've been following the channel who saw my video talking about my Sabbath story, I mentioned on there that we did originally Observing the Sabbath as a show on WXPL 91.3, and you were one of the people on that show, you and Ian Brower.
Yeah, that was a good crew. Me, you, and Ian listening to some Sabbath every other week and talking about it. I really learned a lot about the band. I've learned a lot about the music, and I've grown such a deeper appreciation for it since.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that Paranoid, the song, is one of your favorites by Black Sabbath. Before we get into the song, do you want to just talk a little bit about, you already touched upon it basically, but what your experience with Black Sabbath is, and what is it about Paranoid and your relationship with that song?
You know, I definitely knew Black Sabbath from an early age. I was always surrounded my dad's taste in music. He listened to a lot of, kind of 70s, 80s kind of hard rock metal type stuff. And yeah, Paranoid was probably one of the first songs I knew by them, with probably a couple others here and there. But I know that Paranoid was in not Garage Band, Rock Band. Yeah, Rock Band and guitar, one of the Guitar Heroes, I think, too. And those games had a huge influence on me and my music taste growing up. So that was like super cool to me because it sounds kind of just like any other song in that kind of pop song structure. Like it's not too long. It's got like very discernible parts. It's tight. It has a ripping solo in it and like very hook like lyrics and melodies and whatnot. So I always just really appreciated it. But then listening to this album with you and Ian during Observing the Sabbath, it's like so multifaceted, and it's like Paranoid is kind of them breaking the mold that they and the precedent that they set in their self-titled beforehand. It kind of it's a different Sabbath, definitely. So while I viewed it as like a staple, I guess in their history this is more of a they're kind of selling out a little bit, I guess.
It's
not in a bad way.
Yeah. I completely agree with you that it's them sort of changing gears. And something I mentioned a lot when I was going through their first self-titled was that Black Sabbath is a band that grows and evolves and changes all throughout, from album to album, from song to song, and even within the song, from riff to riff. Everything is just about this constant state of changing and growing and evolving. And
I love that. Yeah.
It's really interesting that you have their self-titled album, it has its own distinct tone. And then Paranoid, as you were mentioning, is very different, and it's building upon it, and it's going in new directions, and they came out the same year.
Yeah, I know.
That's what's crazy to me about it. Now, it was released in, I think, January of 71 in the United States, but originally came out at the very end of 1970. So that's crazy to me that they had that much growth and change in one single year, with Black Sabbath coming out in, I could be wrong, and for people watching in the comment section, let me know exactly which day it is or month it is, because I may be wrong. I believe it was March of 1970 that Black Sabbath came out, and then it was more like November, December-ish. Might have even been October when Paranoid came out in the UK before its United States release in January 71. So to have that much growth and change in such a small period of time, that's crazy to me.
And I think there's spots on the album too that really resemble their first album, like how they do I don't remember exactly, but most of the songs in their self-titled is like they have like, 2 or 3 songs per one song, and it's just kind of one cohesive structure. And they got that a few times, the War Pigs and Luke's Wall and Jack the Stripper and Fairies Wear Boots in this album, which I think that's pretty cool how that opens and closes the album. But the rest of it is just like some of them are longer songs, but I guess they're just trying to write tighter, more cohesive song structures and stuff, opposed to just kind of mashing things together.
Yeah, definitely.
But they still they keep a cool balance of it, which I think is cool.
Definitely. So let's get right into Paranoid. So
Yeah.
how does it going to work? We're going to just listen to the song. We're going to talk through it, and then we'll give our thoughts and talk all about it after the song is over. I certainly have an interesting history with this song that I definitely want to get into. But let's just take a listen. So we're going to bring up, this is Paranoid, the second track on the album Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, and now.
Such an iconic riff.
It really is.
Didn't you say that they like kind of made this song last minute or like just while they were in the studio?
Yeah, so they had about 20 minutes of the album that they needed to fill. And so they just sat down, or not 20 minutes, they wrote it in about 20 minutes. They had like 2-3 minutes to fill on the album. And so they just kind of made this up in about 20 minutes. Which
yeah, and looking at the lyrics is like, I feel like sometimes they kind of go off with theories and about, you know, different themes, religious wise, about drugs, whatever. But this one's just kind of like, he's just talking about a girl. It's like, oh, classic, you know, all reliable in terms of writing lyrics, I think.
Yeah.
For a lot of bands at the time period.
But oh, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say that I agree with you. However, one of the things that I always overlooked, but recently began to appreciate, is really the depth and the complexity of what's actually going on with the lyrics. And just, it's focusing on this person who is just in this constant state of not knowing what's going on and is lost in this like depression because they don't understand their own mind. And I just think it's so cool. And like a part of the song that I always thought was rather simplistic, which I really come to appreciate, is later when it goes to make a joke and I will sigh and you will laugh and I will cry. I always thought it was just rather simplistic, but when you look into what exactly is going on there and about the mental state of this person, it's really profound.
It is, and I think that this shift in lyrics is a good analogy to how the music kind of has shifted. Now, this is a very short song with a very basic structure. It's kind of, you know, a verse, chorus, and then like a solo, which I do want to highlight that solo that we just heard. Beautiful solo. And I love how Tony Iommi, he tracks everything twice, it sounds like. And you can hear like the ripping solo in the left ear, and you can hear the same solo in the right ear, but it's just like even more fuzzed out than the left ear. Really cool stereo quality to it, which I really appreciate in music. Just not keeping things like simple, plain one track, kind of mixing things up, especially when you listen on headphones. Totally different experience.
Definitely. And there's a lot of that also in the first album, which I love when they do that. And they do it specifically, I believe it's Behind the Wall Asleep. They do that with Ozzy's audio tracks, is that they're kind of offset. So that's the end of the song there.
Yep.
So yeah, I definitely agree with you about that solo. It's a great Tony solo, which he has a lot of those. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I alluded to earlier, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how I've had a bit of an interesting history with this song. So I've always known this song because I feel like for people who know of Black Sabbath but don't really know Black Sabbath, there are a couple of songs that they know. They know or have heard. They've heard War Pigs. They've heard Paranoid. They've heard Iron Man.
Yep.
And maybe a couple of others, but those are the main ones. And so I've always kind of viewed, as I kind of transitioned from being a more casual fan of Black Sabbath to going deeper into it and having a real appreciation for a lot more of their music, I, for a long time, and I still feel this way about Iron Man, but I always kind of thought of Paranoid as more of the commercial song. It felt more like this was the more easily digestible Black Sabbath song that played really well on the radio, that a lot of people knew, but it wasn't really emblematic of what they really are as a band. And there was almost a part of me that was like, why is it Paranoid and Iron Man that are the ones that everybody knows, and not some of the other ones that I thought were even far superior, that people don't know as much or people haven't really heard. So for a while, I was like, whatever, Paranoid. I wasn't that into it.
Mhm.
Of course, it's still a Black Sabbath song, so I'll always enjoy it, but I wasn't that into Paranoid. However, I read at one point, I believe I was reading the book, The Complete History of Black Sabbath, and I forget who wrote it, but someone wrote the foreword for that book. And they were talking about how their first real introduction to Black Sabbath was hearing Paranoid. And they really talked about what the lyrics meant to them, and how to hear this plight of this person, and just how it struck them, and really breaking down what the words meant and meant to them specifically. And it was
Mhm.
really when the song was recontextualized in that sense that I began to appreciate it a lot more. And I always loved Tony's solo in that, and I always liked the main riff, but it just kind of felt like a one-note song. But once I really understood more of the deeper complexities and the nuance of what was actually being said in the song, I've come to absolutely love the song.
Very well put. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a really really well done one, and it's funny to me that we're talking about the a layer of complexity and nuance relating to a song that was written in about 20 minutes. Like to me, that's incredible. And it's interesting to me because when you read up about this song, they Geezer Butler, who's the bassist, wrote most of the lyrics for the band. And so he wrote the lyrics for this song. He didn't.
Mhm.
They told him, "Oh, the album's gonna be called Paranoid," because originally it was gonna be named after war pigs, but then they changed it to Paranoid. He didn't know what the word paranoid meant, and as evident by the song, the feelings and the emotions and everything that's going on in the song has nothing to do with paranoia.
No, no, there's really no mention of that whatsoever. I don't even really think about that though, but now that you mention it, it's
Yeah,
more about, it's kind of not in the paranoia direction, more in the despair, I guess, hopelessness, I
yeah.
guess.
And so yeah, he didn't know what the word paranoid meant, so he took what he thought the word meant and
Yeah, he
wrote
had a
this
good
song.
educated guess.
Yeah,
Not quite though.
Geezer did his best.
Yeah, he
Um,
did.
but no, I think this is a great song, and it's it's one of those that, yes, it does have that sort of commercial value, and I don't want to be down putting songs that have commercial value, because I don't think inherently there's anything wrong with that. It's more that I think when a song is crafted to be played on the radio, or it's made for that function, it can lack in quality sometimes, or they're kind of, the band will be overlooking what they should be looking at, which is making a great song, making a great album, with the idea of trying to get on the radio.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
go ahead.
Making music is like, if you try to conform yourself to, oh, I want to write like this exact kind of song, or I want to write this exact kind of structure or something that will exactly fit on, the radio or something, perhaps. If you have that sort of specific vision in mind and you kind of don't, you're it's fine to like have a goal of what you want it to sound
Mm-hmm.
like, or themes like that, but if that's like your only things that you want and you're not letting it develop naturally, it can, yeah, like what you said, it kind of loses quality, or you're forcing something to be something that it doesn't want to be,
Yeah,
very vaguely put. But um I don't think this song is doing that. Definitely, I think
yeah,
they kind of were in the circumstance where they're like, oh, let's just kind of bang something out, and their quick thinking mindset of it just seems to result in, let's just write a short pop song basically with rock elements to it. That's basically what they're doing. um
yeah.
but I think a lot of their other songs, you can tell, are more thought through, that have different parts with lots of different changes. This is more of a steady beat, like you were saying, much less compared to their other songs, and that's fine. It's two different kinds of songwriting, and they're both present in this album, which I think is cool to have, like I said, a multifaceted album like this.
Definitely. I definitely agree. And this was something I was talking about during the album Black Sabbath as well. Was there's sort of there's different kinds of Sabbath songs in that you have the songs where they're longer. It seems to me like the average length for a Black Sabbath song is about maybe 6 to 7 minutes,
Yeah.
average length. And you have those songs have more like 4 or 5 different riffs to them. They have different parts. They have different segments. They kind of weave between different riffs and different sets and kind of maneuver all over the place, which I think is really interesting. And then you have the songs like this one, like Saint Vitus's Dance, more along the line of Wicked World or The Wizard, where they have more like 1 or 2 main riffs that it kind of goes between, and they're also shorter. And I think for these kinds of songs, that works well if the song is on the shorter side. I feel like if this song was maybe another 2 minutes, it you would have been over it already. But the fact that it's more condensed, the fact that they're only really going between 1 or 2 main riffs and that it just kind of has that steady beat to it, the fact that the riffs themselves are interesting enough. It's one of those, Paranoid has one of those riffs that you just want to listen to over and over and over again. And so it works in favor of the song that it is just that over and over and over again. However, if it went much longer than it is right now, it would have become redundant.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it ended up in a good place. And it's not even the shortest song on this album, too.
Yeah.
Rat Salad's the shortest song on this album, which is also a great song. And a great song title. I think that's my favorite Black Sabbath song title is Rat Salad.
They have some very interesting song titles.
Yeah.
I was mentioning on the last one, some of their song titles just make sense for what the songs are. And then some of them are just really out there, which are fun. They have some interesting song titles.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap this up, do you have any other final thoughts on the song Paranoid or some other comments you wanted to make about the album?
Yeah, definitely. While, as you mentioned earlier, it's a song that was probably considered my favorite Black Sabbath song at some point, or one that is probably one of the most important to me. Having listened to them a lot more in depth, I'd say like that's nowhere near the truth anymore, because there's so many other aspects to their music that I never knew existed.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that plays right into what I was saying before about Paranoid and War Pigs and Iron Man being those songs that really are the ones that people who only hear Sabbath in passing know. But then you get deeper into their music, and then Into the Void comes up, and Children of the Grave comes up, Symptom of the Universe, The Writ, Killing Yourself to Live. All these other ones just sort of kind of come up, and you realize, oh shit, they have some really good music.
Yeah, no, and Children of the Grave, I think might be my favorite song by them still.
Yeah.
But I think the next one we're about to listen to is also in that top spot in contention.
Yes. When we do our reaction commentary for Electric Funeral, you'll be joining us for that one as well, which will be great. And we may just have to get you on board for Children of the Grave.
Yeah, I think that is an order.
Yep, that's going to happen. So, anyways, Johnny, thank you so much for joining us for this. Your band, Debt, just released a new album. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we're a group of guys. We play some rock music. If you like Black Sabbath, you probably won't like us, but that's okay. Yeah, check us out at Debt Band MA on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And we just put out an album a couple weeks ago, the first full-length LP, so check it out.
Nice.
Thanks for having me, Nathaniel. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for joining and helping me out with this. So to you guys, I want to know, what do you think of the song Paranoid? What do you think of the album overall? And what do you think about what we've been talking about? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. Once again, I'm Nathaniel. Thank you to Johnny for being here. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe to keep up with our continuation all the way through the album Paranoid. And so until our next reaction or commentary video, thank you so much for watching.